Virtual Legality is a YouTube video series with audio podcast versions presented as commentary and for education and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. If you have legal questions about the topics discussed, please consult your own legal counsel. Honestly, you don't want to be taking generic legal advice from a YouTube channel or podcast in any event. On with the show. Ninja disgusted at Twitch. The legal situation. Hello and welcome to another episode of Virtual Legality. I'm your host, Richard Hoeg, managing partner of the Hoeg Law business law firm of Northville, Michigan. And today we're once again talking about ninjas, or in particular, one specific ninja who we talked about a few weeks ago when this particular ninja, Fortnite player and formerly Twitch streamer, left to join Microsoft's Mixer streaming alternative, and some of the fallout that happened as a result of that decision, him going exclusively to essentially the smaller fish in the streaming pond. What happened yesterday was an interesting story that relates a little bit to business, relates a little bit to law and legality, and so I wanted to talk to you about it. I've pulled up an article from Forbes and from author Paul Tassi, who says, Ninja is not amused. Twitch referred viewers to a porn stream from his old page. And I saw this pass my social media yesterday, and I said, well, that sounds interesting. Let's dig a little deeper and see what's going on there. This article begins by saying, Ninja has mostly kept silent about his old streaming platform, Twitch, in the wake of his high-profile move to Mixer. But something happened yesterday that went way too far from his perspective. After Ninja departed Twitch, the streaming service knew that thousands of people would still visit Ninja's old page daily before they remembered that he'd made the switch. But rather than have a simple deactivated page there, they instead decided to use the real estate to plug other trending streams and streamers. Sometimes they could be Ninja's friends, Dr. Lupo and the like, but mostly they were completely random, presumably drawn by a Fortnite-focused algorithm and absolutely not selected or endorsed by Ninja himself. Well, yesterday, someone decided to stream pornography on a channel in the Fortnite category, and it wasn't caught and banned for a few hours. You may see where this is going. For a brief time, this porn stream, complete with graphic thumbnail, was being promoted on Ninja's dead Twitch page as the lead stream among a host of others. So any kid searching for Ninja's Twitch stream would have been led to that. And you can see why Ninja would be rather upset. And there's an icon, there's a picture here that the author of this article has put on. You can see what they were doing. It says, the streamer you're looking for is in another castle. This would have been in relation to searches for the Ninja Twitch stream, or even bookmark Ninja Twitch stream if you were just a big Ninja fan. And what they instead were showing, instead of a dead page that just says offline and maybe the schedule for when a streamer will come back online, was instead this page, which was what you might see at the end of a YouTube video or maybe even the end of a Twitch stream that just shows a bunch of images of potential things that you might otherwise be interested in. In this case, it looks like popular Fortnite streams. They all look like Fortnite pictures to me, except for the first one, which was blacked out and which apparently was causing significant problems yesterday. And so, continuing with this story, Ninja took to Twitter, saying that he had held his tongue about little things Twitch had done in the wake of his departure. And stepping back for a second, this is unfortunately pretty normal. We like to think of business as above the emotional fray, at least I do when I'm counseling businesses on either end of issues like this. But very often, businesses are people, and so they can have an emotional response to something like this. Twitch clearly feels in part betrayed about what Ninja had done. You can probably recall stories in the recent past where Twitch itself had gotten into trouble for marketing Ninja on other people's channels and doing those kinds of things to help boost Ninja's popularity. And Ninja leaving Twitch after that to go to Mixer has, I think, hurt some feelings on the Twitch side of things. And so he says, hey, he's held his tongue about little things that they have done, little ways they can make your quality of life a little bit lower, little things that they can do to hurt the transition. Maybe you've got some assets that accidentally got stuck over there. Things like that, and Twitch can just make it difficult. Certainly, as a lawyer, I've seen this happen when people want to leave a law firm, especially if they want to leave a law firm to another law firm. If you're going to go do something else with your life, or if you're going to go in-house or something like that, generally speaking, the law firm's okay with it. If you're going to go to a competing law firm, or if you're going to start your own, say like a Hoeg Law or something like that, then you can have little kind of issues with the transition process. And everything ultimately works out okay. But during that period, there can be hurt feelings. There can be little things that one side can do to the other to make their life a little bit more difficult, to make them think poorly about the decision that they just made. But in Ninja's case, he put a video up on Twitter, that says, "Disgusted and so sorry," and apologizing for the fact that people were essentially finding this violative imagery on his channel. Not really on his channel, but at least on an access point that Twitch had put from his channel, from people searching for his channel. Speaking to me via DM, not me personally, the author of this article, Ninja was unequivocal about what happened and what he wanted for his old Twitch page going forward. He says, "My Twitch channel should be what it is. My channel, nobody else's. I did not work for 8, almost 9 years building a following and a brand, only to have Twitch, without my permission, push the most popular Fortnite streamers on my channel. I want just an offline page." And this article continues, and I don't want to read the whole thing because you should look at it, and I'll link it in the description to this video. But that quote is really why I pulled this particular article to discuss at the top of this virtual legality, because that is an interesting thing. He's undoubtedly correct that this is all built off of what he's done. Ninja, whether you like him, whether you hate him, he's obviously a skilled Fortnite player and was a skilled Halo player before that. He is, more than anything at this point in time, a tremendous brand manager and marketing force. And I think whether you like him or hate him, you have to respect that about some of the most successful streamers. This paragraph in particular is a paragraph that I think elides some of the difficult issues that you have when you build your brand on another person's tech platform. So when he says, "My Twitch channel should be what it is, my channel," I understand where he's coming from. I even understand why you might think that that is correct. It's basically not. The Twitch real estate that he has been given to build his brand, to build his channel, is controlled by Twitch, and they retain a lot of rights to it. So I wanted to pull up the Twitch terms of service. Now, one thing I want to say is a bit of a caveat as we scroll down here to look at the license that someone making something on Twitch gives to their quote-unquote user content. That's the defined term that talks about the stuff that you are making and is distinct from the stuff that Twitch owns. So even if you make something on Twitch, you don't own the Twitch logo, you don't own their purple trade dress, those kinds of things. What you do have rights to is the user content you create, your videos of yourself, what you're doing on their service. But you license it to Twitch. That's how Twitch functions. You say, yes, I have this copyright, I have this intellectual property in this stuff that I made, but I'm using your service, I'm putting it up through your platform, and so I have to license it to you for you to make money on it. Now, the caveat that I want to give is in yellow on your screen at the very start of the provision regarding licensing, and it says, "Unless otherwise agreed to in a written agreement between you and Twitch that was signed by an authorized representative of Twitch." Now, Ninja is one of the biggest streamers in the world. At some point when he was becoming that, and maybe even early on in his career on Twitch, I didn't actually follow what his early career looked like, but at some point when he would have had a big enough following, he would have had an agent or even himself go to Twitch and say, "Hey, look, the general terms and conditions that apply to everybody that has 9 simultaneous viewers or whatever, they shouldn't apply to me with my 500,000 viewers at any given time because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you want me to stay on Twitch, we're going to have to agree to something else." And when you've got a bit of language like this, it's something that Twitch anticipates. Hey, if you get to a certain level of importance for what you're doing on our service, we will enter into a specific agreement with you personally, rather than this generalized agreement for all users. But we can still take this language as what Twitch would like to have happen with your user content in a perfect world. And it's possible that language like this exists. Certainly some kind of licensing language exists in a formalized agreement with someone like Ninja. But the caveat is we're going to read this. And yes, this applies to you if you go and you start streaming right now. It almost certainly does not apply literally as we read it to a person like Ninja, because they would have entered into the unless otherwise agreed to in a written agreement. But let's take a look at what you actually license to Twitch if you go on right now and you're not Ninja. You grant Twitch and its sub-licensees, so the people that Twitch owns or otherwise licenses its rights to the furthest extent and for the maximum duration permitted by applicable law, including in perpetuity if permitted, which means regardless of whether you leave Twitch, regardless of whether this agreement ends, as long as a perpetual license is permitted, and it's permitted in a lot of jurisdictions, certainly in the United States, you are granting to Twitch, with respect to your own likeness, your videos, everything else, an unrestricted, worldwide, irrevocable, fully sublicensable, non-exclusive, and royalty-free right. So that's the license, and all those legal words mean it's essentially as broad as possible. You can't take it back. We can license it out to other people. You keep your rights to your intellectual property, so it's non-exclusive. You're not giving us an exclusive right, but we don't owe you money on it. It's unrestricted, and it goes across the globe. And what is that right to? It's a right to use, reproduce, modify, adapt, publish, translate, create derivative works from, distribute, perform, and display such user content, your stuff, including without limitation. And obviously, if you're familiar with virtual legality, we've talked about including and including without limitation. This is designed to be illustrative, but not limiting. So this is only some of the stuff they can use your user content for, because the broad right is described in the previous words. They can use your user content, including without limitation, for promoting and redistributing part or all of the Twitch services and derivative works thereof, and then in any format that media ever exists. And they can use the name, identity, likeness, and voice that you submit in connection with such user content. So, when you make something on Twitch, and for this particular purpose, we're thinking about non-Ninja. We're thinking about the other people that are not Ninja. When you make something on Twitch, Twitch can use that stuff that you've made and promote it elsewhere, right? The second, they could use your name, they can use your identity, they can use your likeness, they can use your voice, they can use your videos, and they can put them on Ninja's page to try to get you more views. And to get you more views so that Twitch makes more money, sure, but they can do any number of different things with it. And the important part of this, if you're Ninja, and if you have a paragraph like this in your agreement that you entered into separately with Twitch, is that Twitch has reserved certain rights to do certain things. And with respect to your account, that was never yours. You had access to it, but it's their domain, it's on their platform, and they can do things with it like this because you've given them license to use their own services and to put other people's stuff promoting their channels on your channel. And from Ninja's perspective, it's interesting, right? Obviously, the pornography, the stuff that's a violation of the user content and community guidelines on Twitch, I doubt very much that Twitch intended for that to happen to him. It's possible that they were ambivalent about it happening to him, and that's a different kind of question. But in terms of promoting other people's channels on your channel, it's interesting coming from Ninja because we do know that Ninja's channel, Ninja's primetime events, or I think New Year's Eve parties, things like that, were promoted on other Twitch content creators' channels, and that was a source of friction at Twitch and with respect to these other content creators. So just on its face, if we weren't talking about things that were obviously problematic and obviously violative of the community guidelines, Twitch using Ninja's channel to promote other content creators is not in and of itself an affront to justice and the American way or whatever it might be. And so we go down a little further in these terms and conditions, and we look and we see another thing, which is whether or not you could potentially bring a claim against Twitch just as a kind of breach of contract or breach of perpetual license to your intellectual property. And this language that I've highlighted here wasn't intended for this purpose, but it's still useful to what's happening here. Twitch takes no responsibility and assumes no liability for any user content or for any loss or damage resulting therefrom. Nor is Twitch liable for any mistakes, defamation, slander, libel, omissions, falsehoods, obscenity, pornography, or profanity you may encounter when using the Twitch services. In other words, this is a very standard disclaimer that says, hey, look, we are not making the user content, and if something slips through our net of algorithmically trying to prevent bad stuff from getting on our system, we're not responsible for the damages that might ensue. It's interesting in this case that actually Twitch was helping promote these particular videos in this particular place. And so you might have another claim that isn't just the existence of it, but the fact that Twitch actively promoted it using your brand location where people would be looking to find you. And that in and of itself might be a problem. But overall, you've got a difficult case to make under this license terms and probably under the agreement that you would have entered into if you're Ninja, to just make a claim that having something that violates the community guidelines up there is something that you can go and get damages for because it is fully disclaimed here. But because we've got this interesting fact pattern, I did want to see exactly what laws they think govern their operations, and we've got highlighted the last bit in the terms and conditions. Any dispute between the parties will be governed by this agreement and the laws of the state of California and applicable United States law. So we now have a locus for what we want to look at. And if you're thinking about this case kind of in the back of your head, you think, okay, well, let's say Twitch did want to hurt Ninja, and Twitch is smarting from the fact that he left to join Microsoft's Mixer. What would that look like? What kind of claim would Ninja have against Twitch? And so I pulled up one of my favorite resources for looking at various laws in various jurisdictions, and those are the jury instructions. We've talked about this in previous episodes of Virtual Legality, but one of the reasons jury instructions or proposed jury instructions are nice is because these are designed to break down various illegal activities into their constituent parts. And the way the law works is you have to meet all of what we call the elements of a particular infraction in order for that to be held against you. And so because juries are going to be deciding a lot of these complex issues in various circumstances, there are resources that break these down into the various parts, and we can take a look at them. So here we've pulled up the Justia website, and we've got potential Judicial Council of California jury instructions for what they call economic interference. And I've actually pulled up a couple of jury instructions here that we're going to talk about. But what we're basically going to talk about is intentional interference with economic relations and negligent interference with economic relations. And we're going to talk a little bit about why they're different, how the claim might be made, how it might look. But just to give you a concept of what the elements of something like this look like in the state of California. This is all with the disclaimer, I'm not California counsel. This is essentially in an advisory consulting type capacity, educational and informational purposes, as you saw in the disclaimer at the start of this video. But it's still interesting to see, and certainly if at some point Ninja decided to sue Twitch, this would be one of the things that was brought up. If that suit were to ever happen, it would be one of 20 claims that were made, because that's how a lawsuit looks, is you can take this and you can take things that are adjacent to this kind of claim, and you can make those claims as well. For one thing, if you followed Virtual Legality before, you know that in California, if there's any bad act by a corporation or an entity, one of the things you strap onto the claim against that bad act is something called essentially unfair business practices. And that just basically says, hey, if you violated a law to get your business, then we can bring damages against you under the fact that you violated a law and you were obviously doing something that we couldn't do because we're not willing to violate a law, and so you've engaged in unfair business practices. But what we're looking at right now is intentional interference with contractual relations. So we've got name of plaintiff, so that would be Ninja, claims that name of defendant, Twitch, intentionally interfered with the contract between Ninja and Microsoft. To establish this claim, Ninja must prove all of the following: that there was a contract between Ninja and Microsoft. That should be easy. We know that there is. For him joining Mixer, he must have gotten a pile of money. It must have specific rules about how long he has to stay on Mixer, probably how often he has to stream on Mixer, promote it, those kinds of things. That Twitch knew of the contract. Well, it was very, very, very public. And obviously, just by the fact that they put on his page, your streamer is in another castle, indicates that they knew of the contract. That Twitch's conduct prevented performance or made performance more expensive or difficult. So this is where we start getting into the weeds on this claim. This would be saying that because you have disparaged or at least closely aligned the Ninja brand with problematic activities like pornography or potentially like other things that are violative of the community guidelines, you have made it more expensive for Ninja and Mixer and Microsoft to promote Ninja on the Mixer site, because you are starting to attack the goodwill that his name and his brand image have built up. That's independent from the platform and whether Twitch has the right to do what they're doing, which they probably do, as long as they don't do it in a fashion that is specifically intentionally intended to negatively impact Mixer and Microsoft. That Twitch intended to disrupt the performance of the contract or knew that disruption or performance was certain or substantially certain to occur. Now, this is where I think you wind up hitting a roadblock when you talk about intentional interference. Twitch has every financial interest to promote its own services. Ninja was clearly, through their analytics, still getting a lot of hits on that page even after he left. That's valuable real estate that Twitch controls. And Twitch was putting recommended videos on that real estate in a fashion that it appears that through their rights under their terms and conditions and through other rights that I didn't read through, but they have 30 of these different terms and conditions documents, they appear to have the right to do what they're doing, which is recommending these other videos on Ninja's channel. And it wouldn't appear likely that they had an intent to just destroy Ninja. And one of the defenses that they could raise against that intent is the fact that, hey, this is useful to us as Twitch to sell these spots, to make more people aware of these other channels, because that's how we make money. That would be a good defense. Then they have to say that Ninja was harmed and that Twitch's conduct was a substantial factor in causing Ninja harm. So in terms of intentionality, that's where we really run into a roadblock. Was this intended to hurt Ninja? It's hard to make that claim. You can get into these kinds of legal degrees of, if you are so reckless that it was obvious something like this was going to happen, then maybe you can get to a level that's equivalent to intentionality and win a claim like this. That would be different in every state, and it would have different standards and case law and things like that. But I don't think it rises to that level. I think probably the better claim, if he wanted to bring it, and I don't think it's very likely that Ninja would want to bring any of these claims because it's not useful to him necessarily to make enemies of all these various companies, especially when, when this term at the Mixer contract ends, it might be the most attractive to go back to Twitch. It's unclear what would be happening there, and that would also be a defense that Twitch would bring up, is saying, hey, look, while this did happen and we regret it, and that's exactly what the quote from the CEO that they put out on Twitter said yesterday, we didn't mean for any of this to happen. That makes a lot of sense from a business perspective, from somebody looking at it in virtual legality or otherwise, because you never know who you're going to have to get a relationship with again in the future. And so Twitch wouldn't necessarily want to burn these bridges that bad. They might want to make it a little bit painful for people to leave and for people to understand that it is a little bit of a painful process to leave. But they wouldn't want to burn the bridges so badly that if in 3 years or 5 years or whenever that contract ends, he's looking around for where he should stream, he doesn't consider Twitch at all. But looking at the negligent interference with prospective economic relations, it's a very similar set of elements that you have to prove, but in the middle is something that maybe might be easier to prove if you're Ninja. So it says, Ninja claims that Twitch negligently interfered with a relationship between Ninja and Microsoft that probably would have resulted in an economic benefit to Ninja. To establish this claim, Ninja must prove all of the following: that Ninja and Microsoft were in an economic relationship that probably would have resulted in a future economic benefit to Ninja, that Twitch knew or should have known of that relationship, that Twitch knew or should have known that this relationship would be disrupted if they failed to act with reasonable care. So we're now talking about reasonability standards. And that's what negligence is all about. Negligence is the failure to act with whatever the reasonable amount of care would be in respect of your relationship with this other party. So even though they have an intellectual property right to a lot of Ninja's stuff because he put it up through Twitch, or that they likely do under their agreement that they have separately with Ninja, they still can't just go willy-nilly and do whatever they want with it. They have to act within the bounds of good faith and fair dealing and reasonable care and these kinds of things. So they know that Ninja has entered into some kind of contract with Mixer. They know that even though they have these rights to use his landing page and his intellectual property, that bad things can happen to him if they're not careful. And so they owe a certain amount of good faith responsibility to do things with a reasonable amount of care. The next claim has to be that Twitch failed to act with that reasonable care, and that they engaged in wrongful conduct through, and you have to have a different thing that they did wrong to bring this claim in California. In this case, what you are probably looking at is some kind of breach of good faith and fair dealing with the perpetual license to use the intellectual property that they have from Ninja, and a generalized kind of rule there. You might also have some kind of liable defamation, slander type claim on a business basis. I looked at some of these laws in California, and you really generally need a fully actionable statement. You would need Twitch to have put on their Ninja page, Ninja lies on his tax returns or something on that landing page, and then you could potentially have that kind of claim against Twitch. This case is kind of a guilt by association. It's a lot more murky and makes that a lot of a more difficult claim to make. Outside of the just kind of unfair competition, potentially unjust enrichment, all of the equitable claims that you could make against somebody that shouldn't be benefiting in a way that the law should allow, which are by themselves murky, and you can see me discussing those kinds of concepts, equitable concepts, when we talk about other areas of the law in virtual legality. But if you have that duty, if you have broken your reasonable care, if you've otherwise breached your own contract terms because you haven't engaged in good faith and fair dealing, and you can make that claim, and you can say that the relationship was disrupted, So this would have to say Mixer and Ninja, after this happened, Mixer would have to go back and say, hey, Ninja, we need to lower your rate. We need to lower your fee. We need to do something else because you have this broken goodwill with Twitch. Then Ninja can bring all of these claims against Twitch. But as you can see, essentially, you need Twitch to be acting intentionally to harm Ninja, which I think is a very difficult claim to make, very difficult to see proven in court. Or you actually need to have something bad happen on the side between Ninja and Mixer and Microsoft, which it seems unlikely to, especially since I think all of the reporting that I've seen has indicated that Ninja has made many, many, many more subscribers on Mixer than I think any optimistic prediction could have had for the first week of operating on that service. And so I think Mixer is very happy. I think Ninja is very happy. I think Twitch is unhappy for losing a talent like Ninja, but in terms of legal claims, you can't really use a lot of these arguments because you haven't gotten all of the elements of the claim together. So it's really a lot of saber rattling on Ninja's part. I don't blame him one bit, because associating your name, your brand with that kind of imagery, with that kind of thing from Twitch is unacceptable. And certainly I would do what he did, which is he went public with it. He has 1 million followers and what have you. And he basically said this is unacceptable, and Twitch did this. And so you need to hold Twitch responsible in your mind for doing that. And certainly I think that was a reasonable way to handle this. Will it evolve into a legal conflict? I would doubt it. As I said, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for most people to burn these bridges. I certainly don't think it makes sense for Ninja to burn these bridges. If Twitch got angry enough, it's possible that they could come back at Ninja for something like breach of contract. It depends on what his terms would have said. He has to be careful in terms of publicly denouncing Twitch. I think it was fine what he did yesterday in all likelihood. But if he's going to come out stronger against Twitch, he could find himself on the reverse side of some of these things, of a tortious interference claim with trying to essentially break Twitch up from its other subscribers. And so he's got a constant tug of war between what he can say, what he should say, and what he wants to say. And Twitch kind of has that same kind of tug of war. But that's been Virtual Legality for today. We talk about these kinds of things all the time. So if you like this, please subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, if you watch this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. And if you listen to it on a podcast, thank you so much for listening. And do share it around with anybody that you think might be interested in these topics. And I will catch you on the very next episode of Virtual Legality.